In this video, I am going over an NFL power rankings pre-draft. So ranking the teams starting from the 32nd, the least likely to make the Super Bowl as of right now, and going all the way up to one who I think is most likely to take the Lombardi Trophy home in next February. So they hold the first pick in the NFL draft for a reason. The Tennessee Titans at number 32. You don't have a quarterback, and you don't have an elite edge. You don't really have an elite left tackle. There's not a whole lot that the Tennessee Titans do, and the biggest problem with why they're 32 is even if they get an elite quarterback, or even if they get that edge rusher, they're still going to have a whole bunch of holes. So I've got them locked in at 32, and I think they're going to stay at the bottom for a while. That's what happens when you trade away A.J. Brown, give away Derrick Henry, get rid of your great head coach in Mike Vrabel. At 31, the New York Giants. Look, you need a quarterback in the National Football League. Picking up a couple of older guys that have been around is just not going to help your team all that much. You're going to be able to get a really quality player. It might be Travis Hunter, it might be Abdul Carter, but you bring in one of those two, still your quarterback of the future. Where's this thing going for the next couple of seasons? Just don't see a path right now for the New York Giants to be really that competitive and win more than 4 or 5 games in 2025. At number 30, we have the Cleveland Browns. Look, this is a decent roster. This quarterback situation is frankly just a little bit unfortunate because they were very good with Deshaun Watson. We had Baker Mayfield there. Deshaun Watson coming in, if he were healthy from where he was with Houston, they'd have been very good. And they spent all that money. It's really one of the worst signings that we've ever seen in the NFL. So they're going to get their options, same as the Giants. They've got a top 3 pick. The Titans almost guaranteed to be taking Cam Ward. They're going to get a quarterback. And the Browns are going to be left there looking to take best available. But over the long term, you just need a quarterback to be able to compete. How are you going to beat out Joe Burrow? How are you going to beat out Lamar Jackson? Same thing for the Giants. Like, where are you going with the Eagles or the Commanders with Jaden Daniels? Even the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. There's just no path that I see in the next 3 or 4 years for these teams, especially not this season. At 29, the Saints. This is a continuing theme, but Spencer Rattler, Derek Carr, we need to get a high-quality signal caller coming through here, and then we just need to be able to bring in a new guy to be able to learn from Cameron Jordan and to eventually replace him there. I just don't see it with their pick in number 9 where they're going to get that game record, whereas they're going to continue to build and get an excellent player at the quarterback spot. The main reason why a lot of these teams will stay below the bottom 16 or bottom 20 for a long stretch is poor quarterback play or a poor roster, lack of flexibility, or the draft picks. It's okay to not have a quarterback, but you can have the draft capital or you can have salary cap space to be able to eventually get one. The worst place that you can be is paying a guy that you really don't need. And the Saints kind of did that similar type of thing of what Atlanta did with Kirk Cousins, but they've already had a decent enough roster that didn't work. So at 28, the Raiders look to get Geno Smith, but how much is this thing going to be different for Las Vegas right now? Max Crosby's taken up a whole bunch of money. He's one of the best edge players in football. We know that. If they can get a playmaker like Ashton Genty in the draft, then this thing might turn around a little bit. They might jump up a spot or two if they can solidify a weapon to go along with Geno being there. But as of right now, I've got them still pretty far down on this list. The Indianapolis Colts, look, you took a swing, really high pick. You went with Anthony Richardson, and we have to wait and see again if it's going to turn out and be a little bit different. But as of right now, that pick does not look great, and trying to beat out C.J. Stroud in that division is just such a tall task to be able to win. You have to go on the road and play either Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, or Josh Allen. That's why you need to win your division if you're in the AFC. You just have to if you want to compete to be able to get to the Super Bowl. There's just too many paths and tough road games to be playing. Really disappointed in the Arizona Cardinals. I thought that they were going to force feed the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. and find a way with Gannon to be able to scheme him and get him open and be the guy he was at Ohio State. Just didn't quite see them using him in a way where he could take advantage of his 50-50 ball ability. I know he had his opportunities, but getting him more targets, like finding a way to get him the ball, and all this talk about Kyler's mobility, it's so rare that we actually see him take over a football game. Even later in the year when they were competitive with the LA Rams, you could see him doing it, but it was like, where is his ability to really extend plays and pick up first downs with his legs consistently? Where this is just such a weapon. Like when they beat the Chargers early in the season, it's just too sporadic and not consistent enough of a weapon. 25, the Jaguars. Again, Trevor Lawrence, first overall pick. People talking about a lot of things coming that way, and he's had the weapons and pretty good coaches. If we talk about Peterson, I know there's the whole fiasco with Urban Meyer through there, but again, you're going to have to be able to deal with that Texans defensive front, a probably revamped offensive line in Houston. Trevor Lawrence. Do we know what Trevor Lawrence is? I think that we do. He's a middle-of-the-pack type of guy as of right now, and when I'm saying this, after the draft, we'll see where they are, but it's not going to be higher than number 20. The New England Patriots are continuing to jump their way up. They obviously were a little bit lower, and they were able to have a decent season. Again, with the draft capital and what they have in the salary cap space, this could be a team that makes a considerable jump. If they find a way to get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, if they luck themselves into one of their players, they're going to be in the top 22, I guarantee you that. Maybe the top 20. Because one of those game wreckers or game changers can change the scope of what a team looks like. Not saying they're going to make the playoffs or win the division from the Buffalo Bills, but as of right now, they have a great outlook, and you should be ecstatic if you're a New England Patriot fan right now. It's very exciting that you've got the young quarterback and almost seeing this building block process happening before your eyes. Look, Bryce Young, Carolina Panthers at 23, they had a very positive end to that year. It's just, where is the capital to be able to take them to that next step? Thankfully, they're in a division where it's not that difficult. Atlanta, Phoenix, and you've got Tampa with Baker Mayfield, who's played very good ball. It's a very winnable division. That's the biggest strength. But as far as making a run, Carolina just needs to continue to build around Bryce Young, and this is going to be a multi-year process like they planned. The Jets, this is a huge question mark. Look, if it doesn't work out with Justin Fields, they could be one of the worst teams in football. No one's going to argue with that. And if it does work out with Justin Fields, look out, because this team has weapons on the offensive side. They are rebuilding that offense, and they have very good players in the back end, in the secondary, in the middle of that defense, and up front. So this is the biggest wait and see while the quarterback play is like, or what do they do in the draft. Frankly, I'll be honest, if they take a quarterback, they are not better week one than they are right now. Is that guy going to be that much better than Justin Fields and we see him trot out there? Maybe week 10, maybe next season or 2-3 years from now, but Justin Fields is likely going to be better than any quarterback that comes through there. 21, Seahawks, so they get rid of Lockett, Metcalf. They got the draft capital, adding another second-round pick, and working with Sam Darnold. It's just a similar type of theme. It's like Sam Darnold, we're going to work with that. He's going to take us to win this division. Matthew Stafford over a 49ers team that looks to be more healthy than just getting the plague last season. I don't see it. I really don't see it. This is a middle. They've got a decent roster, relatively good weapons on sides. I love their back in Charbonnet, and they're going to get better with the draft. They could jump up a couple of spots. Again, the outlook is tough like a bunch of these teams. I'm just waiting to see. I'm trying to think about someone that can make a huge leap and be a top 10 team. I gotta be honest, I'm circling a team like the New York Jets with the ceiling with Justin Fields, and Seattle's a tough team to play, but they've got 8-9, 9-8 written over them. 20, the Dolphins look Tua. It's just a way to keep him healthy. We'll see where they go with the draft and how they fill it out, but having a loss like Calais Campbell, having your best player in Jalen Ramsey or Tyreek Hill, like these guys trying to leave, it does not have a good bearing for where you're headed. You need to be able to build a culture to where guys want to come to you, not where you're losing your best players. It just is not a good look there. And what is this team going to be better than what they were 2 years ago when they got beat by Kansas City in that frigid night? So again, around the 20 spot. It would be great to have the Dallas Cowboys have a sustainable success and build off of a season and be healthy. Last year was just very disappointing all the way around with Dak's injury and Micah not being able to be healthy and a talented player like CD looking to get his fair share. Dallas just is in a tough predicament. Like a lot of these teams, the NFL is a very tough place to win a whole bunch of games. It's not a knock to be 19 or to be 24. It's a very tough league to be in when there's these teams that put together great trenches. That's why we see a lot of them in the top part, or they have great quarterbacks. Have we seen a top 5 quarterback on here that's on any part of this list? No. Or even a top 8 quarterback that isn't in that has been brought up yet. We just haven't seen it. So Dallas, what are they going to do in the draft to improve? They've handicapped themselves, and they're going to do so further if they pay Micah Parsons. I was the type of person that thought, let's get as much capital, let's squeeze this sponge as far as we can and get that out of Micah Parsons, be able to get a younger, fresher player and use that 40 around there $1 million to spend on 2 very good football players, and then you'll have the extra draft capital to be able to work with. So I just find it tricky to be able to see Dallas make improvements, but I'm rooting for them. I'll say that much. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right where they should be, maybe a little bit higher, but again, 18 for them seems just about right. They're going to be competing with Carolina, with New Orleans, with Atlanta for who wins that division. Team that wins that division, 10-7 wins that division, potentially 9-8. I am a huge fan of Baker Mayfield. His gutsiness, his arm, he's a little bit quicker than you think he is. Remember, a Heisman Trophy winner. So Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Bucks asked me like what would make this team get to that next step. It's a difference maker, I think, at the running back position. I think it's an edge player that elevates them to a point where there's going to be offenses that have to set their game plan to that guy every part of the week. So they got to hit on an edge, bring in a new type of player that will be a game wrecker. Like that defense, remember, from that Super Bowl team with Shaq Barrett and Golston and Vita Vea and Carlton Davis in the back end. Like they were loaded. Vontae David playing at a super high level, and on the offensive side, they were tremendous. Healthy offensive line and Brady. So they can get to that point. That was a great defense, and they were very healthy. A huge part of why that team, they had pretty much all of their best players on the field, their starters, late in the season after they got Vita back. So for Tampa to get back to that level, that's what I said. You're going to need a great back. You're going to need the defense to be better. I think it's hitting on somebody in the draft at one of those positions. The Falcons to that next level, they've got that back. Like they've got Penix, who will continue to evolve and improve. Don't know what is happening with Kirk Cousins. It looks like they're paying him a little bit strange as far as that. Thought they would just give Penix the reins, but again, continuing to develop Penix with that arm, and the defense is pretty much there. So how are they going to run away with the NFC South? same type of thing. You got to find a way to hit on your first rounder. And in this draft, bring in guys that are going to be game wreckers on the defensive side. You saw it from Philadelphia Eagles last year where they were able to step up to another level that a lot of people did not think they were able to reach. Chicago Bears, 16. This is an easy one to go about because they have elevated their roster. You can't argue that they're going to be better in the trenches. Are they going to give up the third most sacks in NFL history again this season? Not with bringing in the new additions on the offensive line and Tooney and Jonah Jackson and Dahlman. Grady Jarrett and Adeyingbo, obviously, those are going to be depth-type moves. Expecting them to add to the trenches another 2 picks. The big thing for them is going to be the second round. That's where they're either going to get up further in these rankings and be in that top 14, top 10, which is where you ultimately want to be if you're competing for the playoff spot and getting to the Super Bowl, which is the ultimate goal. So they need to hit on, I would say, all 3 of the 3 of their first 4 draft picks, or 3 of the 4. That 10th pick, whatever they end up doing, that guy needs to pan out in the second rounders. So if they don't get Genty and they get an offensive lineman like Banks and they end up going with a running back, taking a Henderson or a Judkins in the second round, going O-line or edge, that defensive line at 10, and then adding another trenches player, that seems to be the smartest move for them, and they've got a little bit of room to move up. The Steelers, I wanted to see who's playing quarterback for them, but when you have a great defense and the weapons of Metcalf and Pickens, that's going to be tough to guard. And you've got the best defensive player, in my opinion, in football, in TJ Watt. Look at the stats comparing him to Myles Garrett, and tell me what you think between those two, and tell me who you think is the better football player or the better disruptor. So Pittsburgh have to see they need a running back. They need a quarterback. So 15 seems like the right spot. Minnesota Vikings, I mean, they have done very well in this offseason, and after a year like last year, if they just have 84% of what Sam Darnold did, that means they're going to be 11-6, 12-5, competing for the division. I think that a lot of Vikings fans would take that once again. That was leaps and bounds ahead of where they thought they would be. So again, the difference is Dallas Turner going to turn into the disruptor we thought he could be, where his ceiling was a Will Anderson type player? Are they going to get a back-end type guy that's going to be the future at safety once Harrison Smith ultimately gives up the reins of being the hitman in the National Football League? So Minnesota Vikings outlook is spectacular. But again, the question mark, this team has the potential to step back. Like, is J.J. McCarthy going to be the guy? I think KOC is a great coach, and he's going to end up making J.J. play at an extremely high level. And again, helps when you have Addison and Justin Jefferson. Denver Broncos, they got the defense, the reigning defensive player of the year, Bo Nix. You can just go on and on about his athleticism, his arm, the way he played last year. So what's the next step? Why they got beat by Buffalo? It's a couple guys. It really is. Again, on defense, it just seems that in this, you need to be able to, we're trying to formulate what that Bucs team looked like, what the Chiefs have been with a Chris Jones, what Philadelphia was with just so many pieces, the back end being sound, and then their defensive line just being a force, and then running the football, being able to control games. So Denver can start to find that mold, but it's another weapon for Bo Nix. It's going to be another guy to keep him upright and healthy on the offensive line, another player in the trenches. Green Bay Packers at 12. I've got them higher than Minnesota just because of what we don't know about J.J. McCarthy yet. Again, the injury. People might be overlooking that. You should not. Jordan Love was able to pretty much survive last year with embattled body for quite some time. And I just don't know what it is about Green Bay. It seems as if at the end of the year they just fizzled. They had a whole bunch of momentum. And when they played Minnesota, all of that momentum, all the air got taken out. Like when that loss to the Bears at the end, it seemed like they could have gone with Love, but losing that game at home left a bad taste in the mouth, and then going out to Philadelphia and just getting thoroughly beaten by them. It seems that Green Bay has to make a decision with Jair Alexander. So again, but you can see the level, and they have to stay healthy. Jordan Love needs to not turn the ball over. I mean, some of these plays are unacceptable for him being in the league as long as he has and making the money that he is. Man, the Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert, get him another weapon. They were close against Houston. I mean, we saw the interceptions. He threw, 3, 4, as much as he did the entire season. So that's going to help if you've got a safety blanket, another tight end, and then likely another pass catcher later on in the draft. They brought Khalil Mack back, and they lost Joey Bosa, so an edge player again on the other side, adding someone defensive line. But this team is getting closer and closer. You love what Minter's doing on defense, and you know they're going to like to run the football. But if we're looking at the roster, I'm just trying to help everyone be more knowledgeable, and the more I say it helps me sort of create the blueprint of what a team is. Like another really good back, another edge, having the tackles in place for a long time, been Slater and Joe Alt. That is a huge positive, and I mean that's it. A running back, another like a tight end, wide receiver, and edge. So they're 3, 4 players away right now from being flat out better than the Chiefs. Think that they're going to give them a run for their money. Definitely, it's a tough. You got to play them twice. You got to play Denver, Los Angeles Chargers. Stock is rising. So for San Francisco, have to put them in 10 just based off of the talent, the sheer roster that they have. Losing Dre Greenlaw, Trent Williams getting a little bit older, not knowing, having the uncertainty of Christian McCaffrey. These are all important. Brandon Ayuk coming back. These are 4 players that we don't know what we're fully going to get. Greenlaw's gone, but how it's going to look next year. Purdy again, middle of the pack guy. We all know that. That's why he was taken last in the draft. If he had a little bit more arm or the athlete in him, he would have been taken higher. It's not a knock, it's just who he is. And with Kyle Shanahan and a healthy team, they have the ability to be right there competing for a Super Bowl with a lead in the fourth quarter, the second half of the Super Bowl that they could win. If they're not healthy, and if they're losing close games, or the Los Angeles Rams are better than them, we think that this season's going to be a bit tougher. So again, they have some wiggle room to get all the way up and move up a good amount, or to also drop back because they don't have the elite quarterback. Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, have to keep Trey Hendrickson, be able to negotiate that. That's what happens when you lose $5 million and you don't pay Jamar Chase a year earlier. It makes it tougher to re-sign a guy like Trey Hendrickson, one of the best edge players in the National Football League. Joe Burrow would have been the MVP if that was a playoff team last year. There's no doubt about it. Defense will be better just walking out onto the field. Again, interior type of defensive player or an edge that can be a force. Another short-up player to help protect Joe Burrow. That was the main weakness on that magical run to the Super Bowl against the Rams. And help in the back end, getting another defensive back. That can be an impact player. But Burrow and those weapons, they're going to be in every single game, scoring close to 30 points. Washington Commanders, this is fun because you are coming off a season where you overperformed. The expectations are going to be a lot higher, but why not? With Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, defense I really like. So it's a matter of picking up a little bit of younger players, a little bit aged on that side of the ball, getting younger. I loved the Michigan Mikey Sainristil pick. Last year, I was a huge fan of Bobby Wagner. I've liked him with Washington. So it's a matter of you losing Jonathan Allen, who you're replacing with. It just sort of means that you're making Jimmy Newton the pick from Illinois, fighting Illini a couple years ago. He has a larger role. Losing Montez Sweat, Chase Young, these types of players. The defensive line was very good. Now you have to bring in a couple of pieces there to keep it there. I mean, that was the weakness against Philly We all know that. They need a little bit of help on the defensive line to be at that level, but very excited for them. Los Angeles Rams with Matthew Stafford, a top 8 quarterback in football when he's healthy. It's a matter of them being a completion away from potentially playing the Washington Commanders in the NFC Championship game at home on that final drive. And a couple of bounces of the football earlier, Kyren Williams fumbles, Stafford fumbles. They were right there. They gave the Eagles the biggest battle that anyone did, not even close in the playoffs. So LA, very close, and the difference between Kupp and Devontae Adams, frankly, they got better there. It's another tight end that they bring in. Do they add another guy in the secondary? Again, we remain to see that in the draft. Houston Texans, they underperformed last year and were able to play in a division round game against the Kansas City Chiefs. I would say that is quite the success of a season, and yet it wasn't. It's really funny to talk about it, but Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, Stingley, Stroud's back. Let's give this guy another target. Stephon Diggs goes off to New England. So can they get a Matthew Golden? Can they bring in an Emeka Ibuka? Can they get a high-level offensive line player as their one? Like, that is, you're going to see a wide receiver or O-line. That's what the Texans need. When they lost to the Chiefs, it was because of an inability to score points. Like, they were hanging in that game, and the Chiefs were giving them chances, but they didn't take any advantage of it. So the Texans, watch out for them next year, and a lot of that's with that division. Like, they're going to walk away with that pretty quickly, would imagine. The Lions, it is pretty amazing when you lose your great offensive coordinator, terrific defensive coordinator, and you're still a top 5 team. I've got them at number 5, and they are going to be better. Again, with this draft, they're going to be a little bit younger and a little bit faster, bringing in some new talent. It's someone on the D-line. With Hutchinson, it's maybe another corner to compete with Terrion Arnold and in the back end of that secondary, but that O-line is there. Obviously, the run game with Monty and Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra, and Williams, they are set. They just need a couple of more depth pieces. That's all, because that was the only thing that kept them realistically from being very close to the Super Bowl, was all those injuries. The Ravens, similar, you need another interior O-lineman. It's like that pass rush. When they play the Chiefs and Josh Allen, when they play Buffalo, or even they play Joe Burrow, you're looking for like production. It's like Roquan Smith. You need another guy like Roquan to be right there, to be close. I'm so passionate about getting that extra guy, because it is that there will be players in this draft. Each of these teams will have a chance to take that will be superstars in the league that they will not draft, or that they will. So that is the fascinating thing, is they could, if they made the right selection at the exact spot and did everything right, they could make it happen. So Baltimore Ravens are a 2-point conversion away from OT with Buffalo. Again, they're going to be close, but that division will be tougher next year. I guarantee it. KC, and its interior O-line, which you'll be able to fill out, will be Zabel, will be Donovan Jackson. We don't know exactly who will be available for them later in the draft. Might have to trade up to be able to get a player. But with Patrick Mahomes, with Chris Jones, they're set offensively, except for another wide receiver. But again, Rashee Rice, it's like you're bringing in a star player to come in because he got hurt so early last year. So Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, is there a larger threat? Well, yeah, the later round pick or in the draft will be able to make it happen. Philly, the Philadelphia Eagles at number 2. That's right, I have them at number 2. You know who I haven't put yet on this list. It's again about quarterback. I've got the Bills at 1 because of Josh Allen, the MVP, and 2, I like Jalen Hurts, I like A.J. Brown, I like Devontae Smith, and I like a great O-line. That certainly helps. Are they going to pick up another great edge player? That's what they need to replace. Milton Williams, it's not Fletcher Cox. It isn't Josh Sweat. So we're going to be able to replace that in the draft. That's where they'll be fine. This team is going to be competing. Again, Josh Allen, That's why I have the Buffalo Bills at number 1 on this list. We thought that the Buffalo Bills were going to take a massive step back last year. And why didn't it happen? Josh Allen had an MVP type season, and were the Buffalo Bills that good? They had a pretty good defense, protected Josh decently well. James Cook, they I guess weapons, Keon Coleman there, Dawson Knox, Kincaid. So Buffalo, what is the next level? It is another wide receiver. Can we get them an explosive threat? And we find a way to get them a player to track down Lamar and Patrick Mahomes, because that's the difference. That's why they lost those 4 games. They had a guy that could get another sack in each of those games. They find themselves getting a win or 2 in those. So edge, a little help on the offense. But again, Buffalo is there because of Josh Allen. He is the reason why we have them at number 1. My best quarterback going into next year. Best football team going into the NFL draft as of now. Appreciate you watching this video. Had so much fun making it. It's great to talk about the pre-draft because that means we're going to be able to talk about the post-draft very soon. So stay tuned for those rankings as well as other content we have coming your way. Hope you enjoyed and see you next time.